Welcome to the Model Car Hobby Headquarters Unpodcast with your host, Luca C. Now here he is, Luca C. Well, hello, my fellow car modelers. How you doing today? Thank you for dropping in for the next Unpodcast. And I got a real special guest right over here, Doug Whyte from the Model Car Muse channel on YouTube. If you haven't checked it out, you have to. But we're gonna. Right now, I got to do a little bit of fanboying out right here because I'm pretty excited about having Doug on because I have followed him for years, like since the late '80s, early '90s. Well, I'll show you something here, Doug. This was pretty much the magazine right there.
Oh yeah.
That I first heard of you and read about you. That's the car right there. We'll talk about that model a little later.
Yeah.
But the whole thing with that is I always had a big kind of wanting to do the model car hobby journalism that you and guys like you and of course Rick Hanmore and everybody's name just escapes me. I had it all down before I started. You know how that is. But and of course the great Gary Schmidt, that
Right.
To me, I don't think the hobby would be what it is today if it wasn't for Gary and starting Scale Auto. And
Now, he had that great vision.
He did.
He just moved it forward effortlessly.
Oh,
I'll say effortlessly because at least it seemed that way.
It sure did. And it was a big part of what made this hobby just explode. And when I came into the hobby in the 80s and discovered Scale Auto and started reading all of you guys, you, Pat Colbert, all you guys from those early days, when it was Highland Publications, correct?
Yes.
I mean, I had such a desire to do what you guys do one day. And that's really what got me going with my channel. Nice. It was your guys' influence, and now so many of you are starting to trickle into YouTube. I think it's fantastic. And to you people out there, if you haven't checked out Doug's channel, really need to. It's unique. You're interviewing some of the great model car builders of our time, and it's done so well. And I think it's time for me to shut up because I've wrecked the hobby enough here tonight. Because everybody's here to hear your story. So what got you started? Let's just go right to the beginning.
You mean from the very, very beginning? Or what got
you building model cars? What did it?
Well, I come from a family of airplane people, flyers. My grandfather flew a de Havilland DH-9 in the First World War. And we always had airplane models around. So when I was really little, I'd see them on the shelf. When I got to a point where I was like 5 or 6, I wanted to build a model. Went to the store with my dad. We picked up, I guess it was a recent release. It was brand new, the Revell 56 Ford pickup.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah. It was like, had opening doors. What could be cooler than that?
Oh, the Revell opening doors.
Yeah. I have a special place in my heart for that whole series, that whole era in Revell. I eventually built all of those and would love to do it again. But my dad and I sat down one Saturday night. I remember it distinctly. Us sitting down and working on that pickup and building that. I remember the decals floating in the little glass bowl and just watching and being patient. He basically did all the work. I watched. I did a couple things here and there. Soon after that, I just took over on my own, still hung out with my dad, but started building my own models, and it became just a passion. It was between what I would see on the street, we'd go shopping or wherever we were, I'd see a car on the street and I'd see a model kit and then I got into magazines. Fortunately, I had a teacher in 3rd grade who told my parents, have him read. It's important that he reads. My mother said, what should he read? And she goes, it doesn't matter. So I got to the newsstand. It was Hot Rod, Rod and Custom Stock Car, all those magazines. Would just have a load of magazines, be going through, reading, learning to read, and looking at the pictures, and influenced my model building from there.
Oh, wow.
As a young teen.
Yeah. And that is, that's the magazines were the influence for a lot of our ideas, wasn't it?
Yeah, I can remember then having subscriptions, and I'd go to the mailbox, that magazine would arrive, and it would just be, I would just like devour it. Okay, I have to build this model. I want to build a model of that.
Oh, yeah. Obviously, you ended up going into model shows over the years and stuff, and it evolved into getting into journalism with the model cars. How'd that all start happening?
Not even at a young age, because I didn't know there were model shows. I didn't know that there was anything beyond just buying your kit, solitarily sitting there and assembling it, enjoying it for yourself. Talking to my friends at school, they put M80s in them and blow them up. I'm like, there's no way I'm doing that. So, I progressed from there.
So you pretty much looked at your early model car building as an art form. It wasn't a game where a lot of kids, they'd slam them together. Oh, these are cool. We play with them, and then we throw the MAZ and blow them right into the sky.
Right. Yeah. And then like when I discovered Car Model Magazine and those, when they came out, I started to learn about there was paint. There were different paints you could use. And, all the different techniques that I was saying, I was like, oh, I got to try that. I'll try this. And, just racks of spray paint that, I've inhaled those fumes for years.
And it didn't affect you at all, right?
I don't think so. I hope not. And then there was like a real turning point when I saw Jim Keeler's Dodge Fever.
There you go.
It really sunk into me that, you open the box, you don't have to follow the instructions or, make your little modifications like you saw in a magazine. You could cut it up and combine parts from other cars and paint it any different way you want. And from there on in, that was just like my favorite thing to do.
Wow.
Pirate kits and make crazy stuff.
Jim Keeler's Dodge Fever, I think that did it to a lot of folks. I was introduced to Jim's Dodge Fevers in an article in Scale Auto in like 1988, I believe it was.
Yes.
And that article is how, I found out about it. And even being old models back then, it inspired me. And that was kind of like a realization or an epiphany of, wow, we can really go farther. Because that was about the time I really started taking off with my part of the hobby and me wanting to take a bunch of kits and slam them together and create something.
That's great. It's just such an outlet. I mean, afterwards, the cool thing, once I got involved in writing for the magazines, I ended up photographing that Dodge Fever car.
Oh, really?
So to get that in front of my lens.
Oh, man.
So cool. I photographed Don Emmons and Dave Shookless and a lot of other Gerald Wingrove cars.
Mm-hmm.
But, seeing that in front of my lens was like,
cool. I can imagine. I mean, are those models still in the International Model Car Museum up in Salt Lake?
As far as I know, the yellow car is there. I'm quite sure. I got to see that in Toledo as well, which was
really?
Really special. It was on the table, one car away from my Studebaker, and it was just like so cool. It was so cool.
Yeah. The Studebaker we'll get to. We're going to be getting to that Studebaker.
Okay, it's the 40th. In Toledo, they brought out models from the museum, and I was honored that my Studebaker came out, and it was just great to see. Jim Keeler's Dodge Fever and these other famous cars.
That really is an important model to the hobby. Even a lot of the younger guys and new people in the hobby who never heard of it or saw it before. The evolution of the hobby and what Jim did way back then, what it did for us, and that is because I'm planning on going to the last Salt Lake show and make a beeline for that museum, and I hope it's there because I got to get that thing. I got to look at that thing up close. Yeah. I got to.
That car, in essence, was my muse. It was one of those special things.
Yeah, definitely. definitely. Well, like I showed in that one magazine, where I first heard of you popping up in that Scale Auto, the K&K Insurance Dodge was just amazing. What great coverage they did of it.
Yeah, it was written by a real special guy.
It was Ken Euler.
I met him at the very first NNL East I went to, which was like NNL East number 3.
Yeah.
So we've been friends ever since. Scale Auto was talking about, getting some coverage in there. Ken was like, hey, can I write the article? And I'm like, sure.
It's just a spectacular model. And then I also saw you pop up in Circle Track magazine.
Yes.
89. Ducking out again. Remember, I sent this to you. I happened to photocopy. I didn't have the magazine, so I photocopied it.
That came after I won the Circle Track contest 2 years in a row, and they in essence are banned or outlawed me from being part of it again. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
To be banned or outlawed, I was feeling like
good way to
all over.
That's an honorable ban and outlawed. Right. That is actually where I first heard of you, was in Circle Track. Was this article in Circle Track?
Yeah.
Because this came out before the Scale Auto one, but it was that model. And for you to get that kind of coverage in Circle Track magazine, and did you do an article on how to take photographs of model cars? It was I remember Ken Moroso. I was trying to find that last night. I had that magazine.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it had
the Robbie Moroso Bush Grand.
Yeah, the Rob Moroso, which was that your model? Because I like that model.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I have it.
Oh, cool. Ooh, a treat for Luca. I love that model. And it was just used in the article about how to.
Right.
I hope I can find that issue.
Yeah, it's in mid restoration now. But,
oh yeah, beautiful model.
I actually had to build that, redo the wheelbase for Busch Grand National and redo.
You even went that far.
Yeah, it turned out really well. I was very happy with that.
Yeah, that was a beautiful model. What a great article, and it helped me in taking pictures, and because I did some photographs for some model shows locally that got into Scale Auto's contest annual, and all that stuff was really good information. It was an excellent article. But that's it. You were in Scale Auto, or not Scale Auto, but you were in Circle Track magazine, and you wrote articles about models in Circle Track magazine, and then you're writing all these great articles in Scale Auto.
At the same time, I was doing work for Griggs Publishing that did Winston Cup Illustrated.
Oh, wow.
And racing, there was a kid-oriented magazine, really nice glossy publication. I did monthly articles for them.
Oh, look at where you. Yeah. So I wonder why the level of your YouTube channel is where it is. But remember this this was the start of a 3-parter you did in this magazine.
Wow.
Yeah. Here we go. The Whyte Way.
Oh yeah. That was not my title. They put that in there. I'm like, okay.
It would figure. Yeah, that seems very magazine, very editor-ish.
Right.
But this was a really helpful article back then. You went over it. It was a 3-parter, and it started in this. So that was the issue 78. So you were in issue 78, 79, and 80.
Yeah.
I actually had all 3 of them out and was looking at that article. Excellent article. And one thing I notice about all the articles you have done for Scale Auto, how vibrant all the art, the layouts were really vibrant, and your photographs were just amazing. And I didn't realize how professional you were, but obviously because that's what you did.
Well, my career was as a commercial photographer,
right?
Working for ad agencies. I had a studio in New York City.
Oh wow!
And I did advertising. If you saw in the 80s, 90s, into the 2000s, if you saw an ad for a BMW or Sony or Bloomingdale's, I probably shot it.
Wow! Holy cow!
So I had a lot of really good clients, a really good time, and I also got to do some model building along the way because,
Thank goodness for us.
right. But, they need props. They need model makers. And I worked with the best model maker guys in Manhattan, supplying what I needed. And every once in a while, I got to step in and do a little bit of my own.
Oh, how cool.
It worked out in the job, or at least having a shop within my studio. If we're working on something and we needed to modify it, we could, cut it in half in the bandsaw or whatever.
Oh, wow.
It was also good entertainment for the clients.
Oh, yeah. Put sheer panic into them and then they're.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, that had to be fun.
It's always good to have a little tension where,
Oh, yeah.
Even if it's just visual.
Yeah, keeps the creative juices flowing.
That's right.
That's awesome. Yeah, wow. It totally makes sense. I mean, you have brought that to your channel. The way you lay your videos out, you really took some time there because you're showing. Like I watched the one. I got about halfway through the one you dropped today, and I've watched all of them, and I really like the one with Rick Hammer when you went over to his place. And Rick is another one of those. I got to kind of pass words with him years ago on the internet. And he was one of those guys I always picked out his models and really liked them. It was neat going over all his old stuff you had there. Yes, but being at his room.
That's the format I'd like to follow, where I actually get to spend time with people.
Yeah, that's really cool. But what you're doing at that model show, you go to Toledo, that was the last Toledo show. Boy, I wish I would have known that. I would have loved to have been there. And all these great builders that you went ahead and you did all your interviews, and you've taken your time to get it all together. It definitely shows. And you're just dropping them one at a time instead of having one big video with a bunch of little interviews. It's fantastic. It took a little while
to figure out that they should be little ones. But I got to tell you, it's not just me. I have a team.
Yeah.
My wife is in essence the producer and the editor.
Oh, wow. Great.
But that was her experience in New York City. She was a producer.
Oh.
So she knows how to pull it off so easily and so calmly. And she loves the editing part. My son does the videography. He's an engineer, but loves doing this as we go.
Yeah.
So that whole Toledo thing came together over dinner one night.
Really?
And I said, the last Toledo show is coming up. And as I sat there, my son was there, my wife was there. We started talking about it, and they all agreed that, this is important. Not only just for me to go.
Yes.
Why don't we all go and record it and make that at least, the basis and the start for, some content for the channel.
Yeah. So how long have you been thinking about doing this channel?
Yeah, it's funny because, the obvious thing was, well, we'll start a magazine. They were talking about magazines, being on the decline. And, I've voiced to, all the editors and people along the way. I said, the only way for you to survive as a magazine going forward is to, in essence, become something like Rodder's Journal. Mm-hmm. You have to be just the most beautiful, gorgeous publication, a book, have great content that people they just can't wait to see it. And I thought, if I start a magazine, that's ink and paper and shipping and all that goes along with it. And I just thought, wow, video would be cool. And with the experience, we cruised out to Toledo. We shot the night before all the presentations, all the speeches. We shot we did the show. We did as many interviews as we could pack in. And then that Saturday night, there was the show where everything came in from the museum. Did more interviews there. And we got back home and I thought, well, I'll just start editing. And it was such a monumental task. And with the advent of COVID kind of slowing things down, it was really obvious that I wasn't going to pull this off too well on my own. My wife stepped in, and with her experience, she picked up the editing, and we went from there.
Oh, it shows.
It took over a year to get that first episode out for us to really figure out what we're doing. But we got that out. We were over at the show with Rick. We were over at his place for a good portion of the day. And we'll probably get 4 episodes out of that.
Oh, awesome. I'm looking so forward to that.
There's just a ton more. I mean, that was really just about, Rick starting out in the NPC contests and what went on early on. But there's his new stuff too.
Yeah, that I'm looking forward to that because that's great because that I'm looking forward to that you did more with Rick because that was really a neat episode. And I knew the first episode I actually watched was your second one, and then I went back and watched your intro.
Okay.
Which was beautifully laid out. But your first episode, and right off the bat, I knew what you were doing. And in my mind, I saw this and was like, this is really important work for our hobby that you were pulling off. And I could see, oh, this is going to be a long string of videos. You were there getting everything, and it's going to take a year or whatever it takes to put out all these videos. And it is well worth it because your wife is doing an outstanding job of editing. And editing is like my fun part of doing all this. I love the editing part. And I know what kind of work it takes. And she's light years ahead of me on that. Beautiful works. That's why, like I said, Mark and I said to Mark, it's PBS quality show. It really is. It's like watching television, which YouTube, that's what YouTube is. This is kind of the new television,
But we actually had to sit down and figure out, because my first thought was, well, it's just like, is it Ken Burns? Is it PBS?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, YouTube is a bit different. There's certain things you have to follow in order to get, the clicks or to get whatever you want, or just be part of the scene there.
Yeah,
so
it's all
adapting
promotion.
to that too, but trying to keep it, it's got to move quick.
Yes.
We
definitely.
We do a lot of jump cuts. We do, stuff that people may not like or understand. Certainly when I was in school, in college, if I had a jump cut, and that's when we used film. If I had a jump cut, it was just like an instant F. It's like, you're out of here.
Oh boy, would I fail. I am the king of jump cuts.
Yeah,
I couldn't survive without them.
No, but jump cuts are energy.
They are.
They're really good.
Well, I take advantage of my jump cuts to work with telling the story and throwing, I like to throw a little bit of comedy into what I'm doing, and the jump cuts help. I have a lot of that and like you, I honestly, like my connection with Andy from Andy Hobbies headquarters. I took a long time before I started. It actually took Andy really like pushing me through the window. I had the channel up for 2 years and finally did the video. And, but my intention, and this was really early on to model car people coming in. It's like, oh, just do build videos. I don't want to do build videos. My whole intention was, like I said, what brought me here was to do what you guys were doing. And I wanted to be a scale auto journalist, not a build channel.
Yes.
It's just, and that's where like you come in, you're doing exactly what I felt was needed.
Oh, cool.
That's why I just became a giant fan right away. Oh, Doug Whyte is doing it. It's going to be good. Before I clicked on it, I was like, holy cow.
It's a good place to be out there.
Oh yeah, definitely. We need there. It's like so many people that I have met now coming into the hobby in the past couple of years, like Matthew from Model Car Videos. He's a newbie into this, and he really loves the history of it. When I first met him, he was like, you've been in it so long. I don't have that history that you have. And I'm so interested in that. And there's so many people like him that they don't know about the hobby, what was going on in the past. And you bring in it like that. And with a whole bunch of us now starting on these channels, kind of talking more about the past and letting everybody know the history of our hobby, because it is really rich. There's great people.
Definitely.
Like Jim Keeler's been popping up a lot, and you bringing everybody you're bringing in.
Yeah, we see it's like a lot of those people, I've known or read about them in magazines or just met them at shows. But for me, it's getting that face out there, talking about their models, just as if we were at the show. We spend like 5-10 minutes with somebody.
Yeah.
And it's really great to hear like their stories.
Mm-hmm.
There was a writer in the 70s, Studs Terkel, who wrote, his philosophy was everyone's got a story.
Yeah.
No matter who they are, you just sit them down, let them go. And they've got, there's something interesting about them. With a lot of the modelers, I've had modelers say to me, I'm kind of a quiet person, I'm really not a public speaker. And then all I have to say is, tell me about this model. What was your inspiration? Like, why did you, why did you pick that color? And bam, they're off.
Yeah. It's like magic.
So cool.
Yeah. I totally experienced that, because I definitely had you in my head, and your videos were a big influence on what I was going to do a couple weeks ago when I went to that NHRA museum. I don't know if you've seen that video.
I did. I watched that. Yeah.
Oh, and Jim Bunch was a really important modeler to me, but there was a couple of guys that I talked to, but that one guy with that little red Ford that was Dutch is his name. I saw that, we were talking about it. He's a regular viewer, and he was happy to meet me and all that stuff. And then we got that out of the way. We just became a couple of model car guys talking.
Yep.
And I go, I want to put you in my video. And he goes, I can't, I don't. And I just turned it on. I said, tell me about your model. And man, he lit off, and it was beautiful. Didn't have to cut a thing out of his whole talk.
Nice.
Yeah. And it was just, they are that's the way the hobby's always been. Just so many great people. It's just so easy to go into these shows and do what we do, because these guys just, it's the creativity.
Just ready to share, and the other thing is, a lot of us, like I'm in the town of Newburgh Model Car Club. A lot of that is, we'll just go out to dinner. Mm-hmm. We talk about model cars there. I went out from here in Connecticut many years ago with Jim Devine, very well-known car restorer, presented at Amelia Island, some Grand Prix cars that he's restored, and an awesome model builder. He did pass away recently, but 10 years ago we went out, and it was to Toledo. Oh yeah. We got in the car and, cruise out there, come back. My wife said, well, what did you guys talk about for 10 hours? And I said, well, pretty much model cars, and then model cars, constantly for 10 hours with an occasional break to say, hey, let's stop and get something to eat. But, that's what we talk about. And it's just, we just never come to it. We
never get sick of it, do we?
Yeah.
We just never get sick of it.
It's amazing, and it's, we're all from, we all have different professions and different things that are going on in life. And it's the one thing that pulls us together. And it's so cool to just talk about, our passions.
Yeah. Some of my closest, dearest, best long friendships, and some new budding ones, they're all model car people. That's what has brought so many of us together, no matter what we do in other areas or what backgrounds we came from. That's what's special about it. I think that is the total backbone of this hobby. That's me, all the people involved. Yeah, that's a lot of fun. And then, so you brought all your your background in your photography, and you kind of get into doing articles for magazines. When was your first article for magazine? Excuse me. What was your first article for a magazine that kind of got you rolling towards doing the journalism part of what you do?
Wow. It must have been for Peterson Publishing.
No kidding.
After the Circle Track contest.
That was
they were very interested in what I was doing and wanted to pull me on board. And then, other publications saw what I was doing and wanted me to contribute to them as well, which was, I had to roll with the opportunity.
Very
What
cool.
happened was, like I mentioned, I just got to the point where they were all asking, can you do a paint article again? A how-to article on paint or a how-to article on glue. And it's like, I've done like 7 or 8 of those and it's boring.
Mm-hmm.
And there are plenty of other folks that are just doing a great job with it. Now I wanted to move on and try some new stuff. And it's getting all these faces out there. That's important to me now.
And then you come in, it was the perfect move into scale or into YouTube. But yeah, you definitely did a lot in Scale Auto, pretty much in the early 90s. I was trying to find, I remember an article about you in one of the Scale Autos around 93-ish or so. Didn't you actually get hired onto Scale Auto with a position or something like that? I remember there was an introduction article. I could have swore I couldn't find that issue, but what was it that you did for Scale Auto? It was still in the Gary Schmidt days.
Okay.
So they brought you onto the staff?
No, I was not on staff. I was still
Just
cranking out advertising photos in New York City.
Really? Because I couldn't find it. Maybe it was a dream. I don't know. I just remember that, that one picture of you ducking out again. Here we go.
Yeah, here we go.
That picture. Look at that young guy right there.
Yeah. Yep.
My thing won't book. I remember this picture in Scale Auto talking about you doing something for the magazine. Do you ever bring you on?
Down in, I can't remember what issue that was. Somewhere around when that K&K insurance car was out.
Yeah.
They used that same photo, and that was a press release from Peterson Publishing that I guess they sent to Scale Auto.
Okay, it was something like that. I just remember that and going, oh, cool. You were that guy who did the K&K insurance car, and then all the great articles that really helped a lot of people with their model building getting better. And then ducking out again. Here we go. Then this hit the newsstand right there.
Yep.
This maniac model. What a beautiful piece of artwork there.
Thanks. You know what? I have the film that was shot on.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I actually shot that in my studio in New York City.
Yeah.
On a 4x5 transparency.
Holy cow.
Yeah. I don't know if you can see through the back.
I can see it.
See, I wanted them to use the whole shot.
Oh, really?
They cropped it into it. It wasn't intended to be that way, but
yeah.
It reproduced well, so that's
cool. It kind of, you can see that the cover's a bit grainy. Now that I understand now, but when you go into the article and the whole layout of it, just that. Of course, that's those shots. Cool. Yeah, that is beautiful.
My good buddy Rick Hanmore wrote that.
Yes, he did. Rick did. Yeah. And I remember seeing this. And at the time, I was actually working on a model that, of course, never finished. But I was working on a similar type of build at the time where I was making my own frame and chassis and everything. And something similar to that. And it was a 68. I got a hold of an old 68 built up 68 Impala. And I was trying to do something similar to that. And when that came out, I was like, oh, that is cool. And that's the one that you were talking about earlier, that it ended up going into the museum.
Yes.
And boy, I hope to be able to see that thing in real living color in front of me.
It's there, and it's still in really good shape.
Yeah, that thing. Yeah, that's a total scratch build. Used a couple of few parts.
Yeah, here and there. I mean, those valve covers were right. I love those Chrysler script valve covers on that 392. Oh, yeah. I mean, I almost built the whole car around that. That was like the key thing. I've got to keep those pristine.
Oh, really?
Never touched by human hands. Yeah, that whole car came about. I was at my studio one day, and one of the guys from the ad agency, William Esty, who was involved in the Texaco account with Davey Allison,
Oh, okay.
called me up and he goes, "Look, you've got to meet me at this bar tonight. You've got to be there. There's going to be a car there. You're not going to believe it. You're going to love this." So I'm like, okay. So I cruise up to Midtown. My studio is down in Soho. Cruise up to Midtown and get to this bar, and sitting out in front is Cadzilla.
Okay, yeah.
And I'm like, wow. Because that's Boyd Coddington gets a lot of credit for that car, and it's deserved. But Larry Erickson, who penned it,
yes,
is just awesome. And he's an Art Center guy. He was at Art Center just a little bit ahead of me. I did not know him well, but I love his work. And when Cadzilla came out, a lot of the magazines were asking for sketches. They wanted stuff from him. And he was doing hot rod sketches, and he sketched this side view of a Studebaker. And that was my springboard. I was like, man, I love this roof and I love what's going on here. I have no idea what's under the hood. I mean, it mentioned twin Paxtons, which I thought was cool. I don't know what the tail or the interior or the grille looks like. I had to fill in the rest, but it was like, I've got to build this in scale. So that's where it started.
And again, a little spark.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can totally see it is that, because the Cadzilla was what inspired me. This Cadzilla and the Shazoom, right? That 57 Chevy. That was what inspired me to start on my Impala that I was doing. And I remember when you came out with that, and I go, that's what I was shooting for. Except I was going a little more, because the Pro Street thing was, I was going to do the bigs and littles. And I started, as I was working on it, I started morphing into going with more like the square route. If the tires, all big wide tires all the way around. And and the thing that was what I always shoot for when I do any type of suspension modeling. Mm-hmm. I don't like having working suspension, but I like to make it look like it's working. And I don't know if you did working suspension on this car, but it looked like it worked.
Thank you.
It looked like it would all move and spring and everything. That's a big plus in my book.
I like that detail where you stand there and you go, I don't know if the springs or the suspension functions, or if it steers, or if the door is open, but it sure looks like they do.
Exactly.
I had one in my studio in Manhattan. I had my studio manager once I had one of my models, and I brought it out after work, and I was doing whatever with it. And she looked at it. She said, "You mean it just sits there?" And my reaction was, yeah.
Pretty cool, huh?
Right. And we get to you look at it. It could be better than just to enjoy that. Have that joy of, as you walk past it, it's on a shelf, and it's.
Oh yeah. I mean, with it sitting there, the stance is so beautiful. And, but yeah, that flip over, that photo of the underside, I mean, that's what really caught my attention. I was just looking at that. And so tell me, is it a functional suspension, or is it?
No.
Beautiful.
No, it's locked and glued.
Beautiful. See, to me, that's more impressive than building a working suspension. I really think so. Because sometimes you start trying to do an actual functional one, things will go out of scale. But you can keep it looking right and look like it moves. I don't think it needs to.
Yeah, I did a car that had functioning steering, where the front wheels turned, everything turned and worked, and the steering box had basically bevels in it, and then the steering wheel would turn. But it was just such a horror, and so much of not wanting to make the steering box out of scale.
Yeah.
Because it was an open, the steering box was easily visible. So, that's not one of my favorite things to do.
No, it's just, that would be life's too short. gotta,
Right.
you know, gotta get it done and look right and everything. And that's where, to me, that was an impressive thing, as I'm a big suspension geek when it comes to that. And so the whole underside of a model car is always if you impress me with that, you know, that's
Thanks.
what
Cool.
makes me love a model big time. So yeah, that was an inspiring model for me too. One day I want to build that kind of car. I probably won't get back to the 68 because my skills have changed over the years.
Sure.
It's best to start over again. But yeah, I would love to do something like that. And that was
challenge.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to one day being able to see that thing when I get up to Salt Lake. That's going to be cool. And
I'll be there and I'll give you a tour.
oh, that'll be awesome. We'll have a lot of fun.
I'll flip it over and do the dead turtle for you so you can.
Awesome. Oh, that sounds like I have a video in the future.
There you go. You know, by the way, that term "dead turtle."
Yeah.
That's a Gary Schmidt term.
Is it?
Yeah. Whenever we were doing an article or photographing a car or something, he'd be like, "Don't forget to get the dead turtle."
You know, I recently heard that term. I wish I could remember who it was. Was it at the show I was at? Someone said dead turtle. I've heard, so that's where that came from. Yeah, figures it would come from Gary.
Yeah.
And let me ask you this. I'll just ask you on the show here.
Sure.
Something that's been spinning in my head. Gary Schmidt, do you have anything planned that you're ever going to do some kind of honorable video piece on him?
He's on the list. I know the people to talk to.
Oh, good.
I have a little bit of that conversation with someone from Toledo.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really complete or rounded out. It needs a bit more because Gary was a key person.
Big time.
Yeah. I mean, me walking up to a newsstand in, I don't know, the mid 80s,
mm-hmm.
seeing that on a newsstand in New York City and going, people my age build model cars, like they got back into it.
That's what did it for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when I heard that Scale Auto was done, and I did a video kind of honoring the magazine, and I started, which I want to do some more of them. I started doing kind of a little series where I pulled out some of the old Gary Schmidt era magazines and just would go through them. Kind of a way to show these newer guys of what it was like back then for the magazines and what it did for our hobby. And I have mentioned Gary and honor of him a whole bunch. And it's been in my head of, I would love to do a video on just him. I think that's right up your alley. You've got the people and definitely, knowing him personally. Yeah, he definitely deserves to be remembered in our hobby, and knowing that, I'll say it again, is I don't believe we would have what we have today if it wasn't for him and him starting Scale Auto in the late 70s.
He was so persistent in the beginning and getting
mm-hmm.
it out. There were so many things that could have gotten in his way, and he just didn't. He just kept going.
Yeah, it was just awesome. Yeah, and it was so that would definitely be a cool one. I'd be looking forward to that. That would be very cool. He deserves it. He deserves to get known by all the newbies around.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but this is the new Scale Auto here, I guess. You know what we're doing, and it's cool to see guys like you and Mark and Clay who were involved with Scale Auto jumping into the YouTube thing because it's really a natural thing. Like I say, well, of course you guys got to do it. We need you here, and that bringing you here, that's where I was so excited that you came on. And
cool. And
I don't know, I can't remember, did I contact you or something? I knew that I saw that you were on my group. Mm-hmm. and that was really cool when I asked you to do this. I really appreciate you coming on this.
Well, I thank you very much. Yeah. I mean, it's just a complete blur, just keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Enjoying all of this.
Yeah. It's definitely a driving force, the passion, can see the passion in what you're doing on your channel. And the passion of the people that you're interviewing.
Yeah.
It's just showing what a great hobby we have and great people in it. It's so cool.
For me, it's a great excuse to just talk to modelers.
I agree. I know. That's what I do this for. I wanted to start doing this. I just want to talk to my model car buddies, man, and I just keep meeting more of them through this. This new technology we have here of the internets and now YouTube and all this is just giving us an opportunity to all get closer and be friends, without living next door to each other. and I don't think many of you guys wouldn't want to live next door to me.
Okay.
But hey, do you have anything you want to say about your channel or promote your channel? Any other things that you're doing? Please, this is yours right now.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I mean, at this point, we're still very young. We're only 9 weeks in, still experimenting. I did an air eraser video, which was a little bit like a how-to, but not a, 1, 2, 3 step how-to on how to do it. We're looking at that. I'm planning to do more things like that. Certainly something on photography or other techniques where it's just more inspiration than each step along the way. Because, we're all at a point now where we can pretty much figure out the basics. A lot of it is just inspiring that next level or rethinking something. So we're headed along that route. I certainly want to get out and visit more builders in their own shop.
Yeah.
Because, it's such a great place, and just like talking to you, you reach down, you grab something, I can turn around and I can grab something here as we're talking.
Because we're in our caves. Yeah, definitely.
So we're still working on it.
Oh, that sounds great. It sounds like you got a whole bunch. You're going to be around for a while doing this, I believe.
Oh, we hope.
And I think you guys hit the ground running, because right out of the box, it's like you had it figured. You could really tell the prep, and you had it figured. It took me a few years to evolve into this mess that I created.
Yeah, but there's nothing better than a collaboration. And with my team, we were able to discuss this. I could sit in the car and drive along, or wherever and kind of think of ideas. But when you're bouncing it back and forth off of someone, it's, you really get things nailed down.
Yeah. And it shows. It shows right off, like I said, the first video I watched. Man,
well, we have some crazy and different stuff we're going to try. So
yeah, that's good.
That's why I'm dying to talk to Mark Batson sometime.
Oh, that is a fun guy to talk to.
Because I guarantee he has no idea the question I'm going to ask him. And he's going to be able to go on for 20 or 30 minutes about it and just be a happy guy.
You know what he said to me this morning when I was talking to him? And I said, I go, well, guess who I'm going to be putting on the Unpodcast today? And he was, and just got all, tell him, I said, oh, it's so great. I love his videos. I'm so glad he's doing it. And he goes, I don't know if we met, but I don't know if he remembers me. I said, oh, come on, Mark. He's like so modest. Mark, geez, you're the guy who built the Superflow car, for crying out loud. Everybody knows you.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And he's working on some nutsy projects right now.
Good. As we all should be.
Oh yeah. What are you working on right now?
Well, the problem is I'm so easily distracted. People say, well, what kind of models do you build? They originally thought, well, I just build NASCAR stuff. Asphalt modifieds, cup cars. It's like, no, I like everything. Someone comes up to me and says, I say, name a car, I'll give you 5 minutes on it. So they try and come up with, very esoteric, whatever. I can pretty much give them like a pretty good story about it, or at least I tell them, well, maybe, how do you know I didn't make it up?
Yeah.
I live on, it's a big tent. I love everything. So what's on the bench now? And a lot of it is spurred through throughout COVID, Town of Newburgh Model Car Club, us guys got on Zoom every Monday night. We started doing theme builds and talking about things. So what I finished, and you may have seen in the videos, is my 29 Ford street rod. It looks a little bit like a Bugatti tail.
Okay.
The whole club did 29 Fords. So I set out, I used the cowl, I used the speed parts from the original Revell Ford pickup, the Model A pickup, the banger motor, all the Anson and Winfield stuff, put a crank-driven supercharger on it, scratch built, and took 240 Ford hoods and made the boat tail out of that. And then after doing all that work with those 44 hoods, I looked at it and went, I just built a Bugatti. It had that look. It was like a lot of work to get there.
Oh, boy.
That I got up. I actually did a Bugatti after that just for fun. And that's also been in a couple of the videos. What I'm working on now is a build for a gentleman who is a restorer and collector of the first L-88 Corvette that Dick Gullstrand picked up at the factory in St. Louis, drove to Penske's shop in Pennsylvania, and then they took it to the race in Sebring in Florida, like weeks later.
Really?
Very historic car.
Yes, it is. I know the car.
Yeah. So I'm working on that. I did the development for that car, the blue version of the car, which was a later car at Danbury Mint.
Mm-hmm.
But this car is the red car as it came out of the factory. So it's like both generations. The blue car is this one.
Yeah.
And that's the Danbury Mint car. So I got to do the restoration on that. So now I'm working on the red one, which at the moment looks like that.
Mm.
But it's coming along. Got side pipes there still loose.
A couple bolts.
Traco motor, looking good. So I got that going. And the other thing that's my personal project that's on the bench is.
Looks like a Ferrari.
Pardon?
Is that what's that there? A Ferrari there? Or?
Boy, have you got a good eye. You have got an awesome eye.
Ah.
330.
Oh, it looks good in front of Doug Whyte. Nice.
330 P4, but this kit has a personal history for me because I've got to find the box. As a teenager, one day my dad came home and said, you know what? My company is giving us the opportunity to move to France. And what do you think? Well, in any event, we ended up in France, living there for a couple of years. And while there, as a teenager, here I was into muscle cars, stateside, muscle cars, American stuff, the whole thing. Growing up in Connecticut, though, you do see a lot of foreign cars going to Lime Rock.
Yeah.
Canetti, right nearby, importing all his Ferraris. Very common to see those around. But get to France, and I'm like, the kits are different here. So we get to the store. The first thing I see is this amazing box art, 1970s. I'm like, wow, and it's a Heller kit. Well, I don't know what that is. So I bought this. I was with my mom, bought that kit, and got this P4 at the same time, another Heller kit.
Oh, wow.
So these kits are, they're like the old IMC kits, like the GT40, a ton of parts. Challenge to put together. So at this point, I'm finally working on this Ferrari.
I have, like this fairly recently, I got a hold of finally one of those Heller 917s. I got the golf livery one, all because of the box art. I'm going to build the Fujimi one much easier.
but that's the funny thing. It's like I'm working on the 330 P4, and it's like
that's awesome.
Better kits that just shake them and they fall together.
Yeah.
But this has a special place for me. So I'm working on this.
That is awesome. I love those Ferraris. I love those. Those. I love the 917s and that, and been wanting to build one. I found that Heller kit, and then I got a hold of the Fujimi kit. Not that I won't ever build the Heller kit, but boy, I got it right up there, and that box art looks beautiful. Right?
It's great box art.
It's beautiful box art. And
This is my build from like 1974.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Holding together.
Yeah. I don't know why I didn't put numbers on it.
No, you didn't.
I'll finish that one day.
Oh, yeah. Got a few that could go years and years and years. I'll finish it.
Yeah, right. I'll finish it. But you know what the cool thing is here?
Yeah.
Plug wires. I used thread.
Yeah.
Sewing thread. It worked out great.
Oh yeah. I got there's a model sitting behind me right over here that has sewing thread on it for this. It's one of my real old ones that have survived.
Awesome.
I remember I went to the hobby shop and there was, a case that they would display customer models, and someone had built that monogram 66 Malibu SS with the flip nose, and someone had done all the wiring, even for the headlights, but it was all done in thread. This is way before I even looked at a scale auto, knew that like MSC products back then was doing.
Yes.
This is long before, and I saw the thread thing and thought that was absolute brilliant. And I started putting thread on my models.
Yeah.
Then I just got a scale auto, opened up. The first thing I saw was an MSC ad, and I placed my order, and it's been crazy ever since.
That's right. Money well spent.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. But that is beautiful. Those are beautiful models, though. But
Thanks.
that's cool. That's neat that you preserve. It's so hard to hold on to our old builds from decades ago.
Yeah.
Yes.
A lot of them, and I've moved a number of times, and of course, every time I move, they become more just a bag of parts.
Yep, that's the killer of a lot of
models. They kind of disintegrate, like that Moroso car I showed you.
Yeah.
It needs some work to come back together. I mean, for the most part, it's there. It's like nothing's really broken. It's just disassembled.
Yeah, I love that. I love it. I want to see more of that car, because that's the only time I ever saw it was in that photograph article, because the article wasn't about that model. You just used it as a subject matter for the main picture, and that was it. And I remember seeing that, and I love what you did, modifying the headlight buckets to be more correct, and never realized that you went through that deal of shortening the wheelbase to make it like the way the Bush cars.
Had to correct the wheelbase, and I think the side panels are not as flared, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, wow, that's a lot of work.
Yeah,
and the thing is for it to not be noticed, and sometimes it's a hard thing for some times when we're modeling. You want your work to be noticed, but the best thing is when your work isn't noticed and it looks like you just built the kit.
Yeah.
That's incredible model building.
That's the magic trick.
That is the magic of model. Yeah, that is the absolute magic. I want to see that model when you got it all back together and everything you do.
I'll get it together.
Yeah, there you go. Well, Doug, I want to thank you so much for coming on. And
you're welcome.
Everybody, go check out on YouTube is it the Model Car Muse or just Model Car Muse? I like that whole concept.
It's Model Car Muse
it's just Model Car Muse.
Yeah. Model Car Muse for sure.
Model Car Muse. It's
easy to find.
Great channel. If you haven't, get on there, sub on there, make comments, and just enjoy, because it is some great videos and great videos about our hobby and the builders in the hobby. And what more can I say? I got the link in the description below. And of course, I got all kinds of stuff around here I'm putting up, how to get over to his channel. And I love that. I love
that. It's so cool.
Yeah. we have fun with that a bit. I really like that name, the model car. I like the whole meaning behind it. I totally get it. Where you go, Model Car Muse. It's that whole, what sparks that inspiration.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's
why we do it.
That's why we do it. Well, thank you very much.
You're very
coming
welcome.
On in. And
thanks for having me on.
You got to know what I do to everybody who comes on.
Yeah.
Do you know what I make everyone do that comes on the Unpodcast?
Right.
You got to close out the show.
Glue, right? And I glue my fingers together.
Uh-huh.
Is that how it works?
Oh, well, we could start there.
Okay. and what happens next? I'm really not good at.
And then we cut the styrene. You got to cut the styrene.
Oh, cut the styrene.
Yeah,
Right.
glue the fingers and cut the styrene.
Cut the styrene. Got it.
And we will see
Anyway.
you in the next video. And well, hey, here's the producers. And that's how I end it.
Cool. Thank
Oh
you.
man, that was fun.
That was
Thank you.
awesome.